To whomever finds this document, I'm collecting my notes in one place, in case I don't return tonight. I fear I may have stumbled across a damnable secret. Every hidden scrap of knowledge I uncover points to the same horrible truth. London's King's College plays host to a number of satanic horrors. Under cover of darkness, we made our move. Meeting up with a fellow investigator, we would explore the catacombs beneath the university.
Did you bring your revolver? In your
Why?
title?
I actually brought my encyclopedia.
Oh, I brought my encyclopedia.
Oh,
That's
damn.
what,
Dear.
oh God. Have you got anything else?
Here, hold this. I brought another encyclopedia.
Look, a quick look up self-defense. What does it say? What does it say?
A method to protect oneself from harm.
How do we use that?
That doesn't say.
Quick, look up guns.
Right.
So, here we are again. In 2011, Shut Up and Sit Down posted a negative review of co-op classic Arkham Horror. In 2014, Fantasy Flight released Eldritch Horror, a slimmed down version that we still wondered if it was worth your time. And today, we have Arkham Horror, the card game. But this is a totally different interdimensional beast. This is still a co-op game about investigators fighting tentacle monsters and the cults who love them. But this time, your investigator is a deck that you built yourself before the game begins, and every scenario you go on is another deck. This is the core set. This is what you're going to be buying first, and it comes with a 3-scenario campaign, stringing your evenings of play together. But the bulk of what you're going to be doing if you like this game is you're going to be buying into an aggressive schedule of expansions, and those are also going to include new cards for you to build your deck with.
And we love it!
We love it.
Crucially, this is the first Lovecraft game that we at Shut Up and Sit Down recommend.
Number 1, so just sit back and let our unseen tendrils envelop you.
You mean you're going to tell us why?
That's what it says. But like, you know.
So there are options here for people who want to keep replaying through the scenarios on higher difficulties, but to be honest, the main appeal of this is discovering it for yourself. And on that note, we're not going to have any details in this video about the specific scenarios or any spoilers, so you can go in fresh. Having said that, if you would like to see us playing through the first scenario, you can do so by clicking on this video here. If the clicky thing doesn't work, then go to shutupandsitdown.com and it'll be easy to find that. But having said that, if you don't want to see anything, then all you really need to know is that the 3 scenarios in this core set are full of lots of twists and turns and cool surprises. Each scenario places locations on your table, and as investigators, you'll need to travel between them to try and collect the clues that you need to save the day. At best, you might face locked doors, sealing someone out of or into a location. At worst, these might be roving horrors that want to put things into / take things out of your body or your brain or your deck. And as with most co-op games, at the end of each turn, bad things happen, TM. You take a card from the Mythos deck, putting more pressure on your already wobbly plans. But in your first game, you have no idea what form this pressure is going to take. And that's because the game really is a race between the Agenda deck and the Act deck. The Act deck represents the things that as players you want to do, while the Agenda deck is the stuff that the game will do to you without mercy if you don't bloody well get your skates on. If you dig all the way through these cards, then you win the scenario, whereas these cards represent a growing threat that you gradually... But the thing about this that's great and equally half and half dark and delicious, like a vampire dipped in chocolate, is the fact that you don't know what any of these things do until you have to flip them over. At which point you go, oh. But before that, well, you got some flavor text that might suggest, it sort of suggests you might be being followed, but are you? I mean, maybe you're just being paranoid. Who knows? I know. But the thing is, these story beats are so memorable that really the first time you play through these scenarios is going to be the one. It's going to be the memorable thing. And the Mythos deck, though, is fatter. And there is enough variation here to allow you to play through again and still be kept teetering on those tiny toes of yours. They really are very... Have you seen a doctor about those? Because, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with them, but they really are very small. Now listen, in the past we've got kind of annoyed by games like Mice and Mystics and Time Stories where these maddening plot beats come out of nowhere and just sort of spoil the game. But with Arkham, it's different. The dips and lurches that the story takes feel more like a roller coaster. And yes, the table will burst out into cacophonies of groans. But these groans are always joined by grins. These moments simply enhance the game.
So here's the world's most generic faked example that we've invented. You and your friend are exploring a spooky house, picking up spooky clues. There's a spooky acolyte in the hallway when suddenly, no! At the end of a turn, a wizard of the order has shown up. And if you don't kill him right now, at the end of this turn, he's going to be calling up other cultists on his special cultist WhatsApp group. It's a disaster. You never could have predicted it. But it's awesome, right? And there's two reasons for that. The first of which is, this is a bit of a bombshell, you can't lose the Arkham card game. What I mean by that is that your progress through each scenario is in fact you and your friends working towards several different objectives. Some you might achieve, some you won't. And you'll get a special ending, but whatever you get, even if you fail and fail, as if you've just paid for a diploma in botching studies from Ono University in the beating heart of it town, you're just going to record that on this sheet and keep going, which is vital for a storytelling game, so you don't have to keep replaying these beats over and over again. Failure can become part of your narrative, and even more importantly, it's a Lovecraft game, and failure has to be part of a Lovecraft narrative. But maybe more importantly, the reason that these twists work is that you are given such freedom on your turn to twist with them. So on every player's turn, they draw a resource and they get a card, but then they get 3 actions, which they go essentially shopping from a list, able to do any of these actions in any order as many times as they want. You can draw a card, you can play a card, you can activate a card, you can move, you can investigate, you can fight, you can try and run away. And when you and your friends can combine all your actions in any order, suddenly dealing with this guy seems not just how are we going to do that, but how do we want to do that? And that's a great discussion and a tough decision. But even when the board is flat and empty and safe, which doesn't happen very often, you're still making entertaining and tough decisions. You have to figure out whether you're going to draw cards and play equipment and prepare for later, or if you're going to go running around, picking up clues and doing your job.
This tiny web of your own personal choices then explodes to be a gigantic web full of tiny spiders of personal ambitions as each player vies for control and goes, I want to do this, I want to do this, but what order should you do it in? Because you get to choose. You and the other players decide each turn who goes first, who goes second. How can we maximise this? But the crucial thing here, and this is so crucial, is that nothing new bad will happen that you can't predict until the end of the turn. You carry out all of your actions and then more bad stuff happens. Then the Mythos deck fizzles to life like a damp, forgotten firework and gives you all bad things. And when you've got these Mythos cards, this is the window where you, as a table of 2, 3, or even 4 players, get to sit and work out how you'll turn it all around. And discussions of how best to coordinate get hot as you all wrestle with the myriad of options available. Because you're all these weird, different characters who can all do cool, different stuff. And if you put your minds together and think about it, you can always come up with a plan. You can defeat almost anything. There'll probably be a cost. There is always a cost. One of my favourite things about this game, though, is the way it gets around quarterbacking, which is a problem in co-op games of having one player who's more experienced just telling everyone else what to do. In this, it doesn't really work because each player has their own little complex deck that only they are 100% aware of, and other players only really understand your deck insofar as the moments where they go, oh my god, is there anything you can do? Or, oh my god, how did you do that? You are amazing. I love you. Let's high five or marry or both. This inability to be laser focused on what everyone else is doing really pours a bucket of ice over any backseat drivers. But more importantly, it lets you celebrate the moments where other players do things that you just can't. You'll be like, how did you even do that? My deck doesn't do anything like that. And it builds this joyous atmosphere of teamwork and support because your decks are just so different. And oh my god.
We're going to talk about the decks now?
We're going to talk about the decks. Okay, so when you're building...
I love the decks!
Stop. Building a deck before you start playing can be intimidating to a lot of people, but that's fine because here you don't have to do it. The pre-built decks that come in the base set are both fine and fun. But once you've got a game underneath your belt or blouse or pinafore, you'll be jazzed to just jump in and start sliding different things into your deck, having a play, because each deck tells a story. It's a person. What do you wear? Who are you friends with? How do you get yourself out of tough scrapes? A side detail I'd be remiss not to mention is that whilst the stories conjured up by your character's deck will gloop around the theme of the game like accommodating butter, the stories won't always be dark. They'll sometimes be quite funny. Like the first time we played this, my friend's character was effectively, mostly in practice, a man who either ran into a room and then ran away from everything, or ran into a room with a book and a knife and then was just a horrendous murder machine on legs. Anyway, for making decks, we've got 5 classes of card. The Seeker is an investigator who specialises in books, knowledge, and actually collecting the actual clues that win the actual game.
Who's it good for?
Hard-rocking coochie mamas who get the job done.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
The counterpart to the Seeker is the Guardian, who you could also call the Murderer, depending on how you build your deck. The Guardian gets cards like First Aid and the Police, but also Machetes, Dynamite, and the Evidence card, which means after you've killed someone, you get a clue, just like real police.
Who's it for?
Well, people who believe Lovecraft is all about firing a shotgun at a tentacle and don't understand that Lovecraft storytelling is really about loneliness and impotence.
All right, that's enough.
I know, because
You do this every time, stop. The Mystics deck lets you break cardinal rules of the game, like blanking bad cards, reordering the decks, or shriveling monsters like oversized raisins, but also going a little bit mad in the process.
Who's this for?
Well, people who enjoy this nice, elegant sort of eggplant colour.
I think that's like a violet, like amethyst,
It's kind of periwinkle.
lavender almost.
Oh, heather, maybe?
Or orchid.
Jam?
Raisin.
Raisin. What about purple? Oh, it's not just purple, is it?
Oh, that's rubbish. The Survivor is my favourite class. Not really good at anything. The Survivor is like the spanner you insert into the game's mechanics to stop them crushing you to death. With cards like Lucky, that lets you succeed at checks you should have failed, and high-tech equipment like a coat, the Survivor does what has to be done in a coat, and when that doesn't work, they hide on a windowsill.
Who's it for?
People who enjoy achieving nothing but saving the day anyway? Sometimes, probably.
Finally, we have what will probably be your favourite class. Yes, you, the person watching this video. The Rogue has combos that let you run away from a monster, pickpocket them as you disengage, only to then immediately run back again with the element of surprise and murder them.
Who's it for?
People who want a card in their deck called Burglary.
What does it do?
Burglary. There's a finishing touch to your deck, a masterful stroke that really just makes it pop into life and makes you feel like a person, like a set of investigators looking at something dark and slimy. And that's that each of these characters has something really good about them, something special. Roland has a special gun, Daisy has a tote bag, Wendy's got an amulet. And these things go into your deck and might pop out and help you, but also these characters have problems. Every character has one card which is a weakness, something gnawing at the depths of their soul, and if it pops out of your deck at the wrong time, you're in a lot of trouble. And in addition to these unique powers and unique weaknesses, each character also has a basic weakness, something a bit wrong with them that might pop out at some point and cause you quite a lot of grief. And these horrible problems bring your character to life like a cool, broken human being. Quinns is a cool drifter who has crippling hospital debts.
Matt is a tough Christian lady who believes God needs her to kill things.
We fight crime.
I mean, we'll fight anything.
Yeah, we're not very discerning.
The last thing to talk about is the Chaos Bag, which is not, in fact, Matt's nickname for his balls.
Quinns, this is a family show.
Yes, so look, here's the thing. Fantasy Flight, for literally hundreds of years now, has been packaging games with custom dice because that sells board games and they're so cute. But I've noticed something. After being exposed to lots of these games, if you hold these dice up to your ear, you can actually hear the game designers screaming. Custom dice are awesome and designers continue to do amazing things with them, but they have a problem, which is that as soon as you've locked in how the game actually works and you've manufactured the dice and you've decided what all the symbols do, you're then stuck with that. If you want to change anything or expand anything, you're making more dice or changing old ones. It's not ideal. Numbered dice are actually a lot more flexible. But if you want to see something better than a numbered dice, it's this. Every time you do a skill check in the Arkham card game, you reach into this bag and produce a symbol, which tells you if you pass or fail the check. And what this bag is nothing more or less than a 16-sided die with numbers, special symbols that change depending on your character, other symbols that change depending on the scenario. But here's the really, really awesome thing. If you want to make the Arkham card game harder, you just put different numbers and symbols into the bag. If you want to make it easier, I don't know if we can do that. Only kidding! You take other negative symbols out of the bag. If you want to change how the dice work for a scenario, you put more symbols in the bag. Oh! I haven't been so excited by a bag in ages. Don't say anything.
No, can't.
Don't.
And there's one final icing innovation that has us hopping around like mad cultists or terrible Morris dancers.
It's basically the same thing.
They are basically the same thing, you're quite right. Is the fact that your deck is not fixed. After you do scenarios, you earn experience. Maybe you'll buy a cool new card to put into your deck. Maybe you'll upgrade one of your favourite cards. Or maybe you'll just, most importantly, take something else out that doesn't work and replace it. Because it's not fixed. You don't have to build a perfect deck on your first round and then play with it for sessions and sessions. You can change it. Ideally, you and your team of other investigators will behave like a well-oiled machine, working together perfectly, but chances are you won't. And your discussions between missions about how you can tweak things and make yourself tighter as a team, it's just a brilliant part of the fun. And crucially, much like the Chaos Bag, which the designers of the game can play with in interesting ways as the campaigns progress, they can also put cards into your deck.
All told then, Shut Up and Sit Down wholeheartedly recommends Arkham Horror, the card game. We think building decks with buddies is fun. We think exploring these scenarios together over an evening or two is fun. We think finishing a campaign and completely failing to save the world is great fun. It's like cuddling up on the sofa with your buddies and watching a cheesy TV series together. But the way that this game packs your first evenings with it with so much joy is actually the one thing you should really seriously think about before you buy it. Because if you play your board games a lot, you can finish your first run through of this game in 2 or 3 evenings. And that isn't necessarily ideal. In fact, it's kind of, we don't want to call it poor value for money, but certainly you'll play it less times than almost any other board game we recommend.
Yeah, but even so, even saying all that, this game has left us positively abuzz. I mean, talking of buzzing, I kind of have this weird buzzing noise in my head all the time. It kind of gnaws at my skull. It only really is there when I'm standing kind of with my back facing a 90-degree angle.
Oh, you're talking about the dogs. The dogs with too many teeth?
No.
Who just whisper secrets day and night and then you can't sleep?
With the teeth coming out at impossible angles of the mouth?
No. These are the ones that whisper things to me.
They talk to you. Well, what do they say?
They tell me to subscribe to this video because subscriptions, they're a big deal. Just click that little button that says subscribe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the buzzing noises in my head are urging me to kill.
Yeah. No one really asked you.
I think we should maybe deal with that before the dogs.
Okay, well, I've got that encyclopedia.
Yes, you've got an encyclopedia. You've got lots of friends in libraries who you can get in contact with.
Exactly.
Can you see what
let's see what I've got. Oh yeah, no, it's a hammer.
A hammer. Okay, trepanning, old school. You just turn the camera off, and let's get these buzzes gone.
Okay, hang on.